We are also following developments in the classified documents case against Donald Trump. The judge in that case has set the trial to begin in mid-August, less than 2 months from now. Although legal experts expect that date to be delayed because of motions filed by the former president's legal team, as well as the complex nature of the case. Mr. Trump, meanwhile, gave his first interview since pleading not guilty to 37 criminal charges and offered up a new defense when asked why he didn't return the classified documents subpoenaed by the Justice Department. Take a listen.
The only way NARA could ever get this back, would be please, 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 could we have it back?
And they
please,
asked for that.
Because they have no. We
they
were
did
talking.
Ask for it.
No, and
they said,
I gave
"Can you
them
give the
some,
documents back?"
And we were talking.
And then they said they went to DOJ to subpoena you to get them
which
back.
they've never done before.
Right.
And
but why not just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet. And I was very busy, as you've sort of seen.
Yeah, but
I've
according to
very,
the
very
indictment,
busy.
you then tell this aide to move to other locations after telling your lawyers to say you'd fully complied with the subpoena when you hadn't.
But before I send boxes over, I have to take all of my things out. These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things.
I'm joined now by NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Hake and Mark Zaid, an attorney who focuses on national security and government investigations. Thanks to both of you for being here. Garrett, let me start with you and what we heard from former President Trump in that interview, the first time he's really spoken out since his latest indictment. What were your biggest takeaways from what we heard?
Well, to me, that last answer is going to make his lawyers pull their hair out. I mean, they have tried to argue that this should all be handled under the Presidential Records Act, not the Espionage Act under which he's charged. But Donald Trump misunderstands what the Presidential Records Act requires of him. He talks about wanting to sift through these boxes, pull out his personal items. If you've ever moved or relocated, you know how frustrating it is to have boxes piled up after the fact. We get that, but that's not how this law works. The law is very clear. You have to do this kind of thing before you are the ex-president, while you are still at the White House. So even on his preferred legal defense, he's wrong on the facts. The other part of that jumps out to me is his answer when Brett Baier asked him about the specific document that he's on tape, apparently, sort of waving around, saying, look at this document, this war plan, it's still secret. Donald Trump tries to deny that that was actually a plan. He says, oh, no, we're talking about newspapers, press clippings, that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing where he's probably going to be confronted with other facts under oath if this gets to trial. So a frustrating interview from a legal perspective, perhaps, for the former president, but maybe the kind of thing that buys him time politically and cover from some of his allies who can say he's out there talking about this.
Yeah, Mark, pick up on this great point that Garrett is making. I mean, just how uncomfortable do you think this interview has made Mr. Trump's attorneys? Is he basically undercutting his own defense here?
Well, he's testifying. This, you know, obviously no criminal defendant can be forced to take the stand against themselves, and many choose not to. And we've seen Donald Trump not take the stand in some of the other cases, including civil. But all of these interviews can and will be played during the course of the trial or at hearings, as the case might be. So, look, I think the attorneys for Donald Trump have already decided and acknowledged that they can't do anything to control their client, that what is at play here is a political strategy, not a legal strategy, because the political strategy can impact the legal strategy if he can win in November of 24. Either if he doesn't win, then this case is going to be a big, big problem. So I think the strategies are in conflict with one another, and the political strategy is winning the day as far as which one he's pursuing.
Talk about this August 14th potential trial date. A lot of legal experts saying it's really unlikely we're going to see this case go to trial then. Why and what do you anticipate is going to happen between now and then to potentially push it back? And how far back are you thinking it'll get pushed?
Right. I gasped when I saw the date. And then, of course, I realized it's just a routine scheduling order that has high hopes, but is going to be impacted by so many other things. I have a case against the U.S. government now in federal court, and we set a trial date for next year. And the judge in our case said the only thing that would move it is the apocalypse happening. Not so the case with the Trump situation, because there are many issues, particularly under the Classified Information Procedures Act, which we lovingly call CIPA, that will decide who has access to the classified records of his lawyers, the jury, etc. And there will be many motions pre-trial that if a side loses, especially the government, they can immediately appeal it up to the 11th Circuit. So there are so many avenues that could reasonably, understandably, and legitimately delay this case. And we've all heard it many times before. The Trump legal strategy historically has always been delay, 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 delay. So his political strategy is to get the legal case to extend beyond the election of November 24. And because that could be his best saving grace.
Garrett, let me turn back to you because we are waiting and watching to see if there will be more indictments around January 6th, around the efforts to overturn the election results in Georgia. Take us inside Trump world right now. What is the thinking and the strategy as they wait to see how those other cases play out?
Well, there's two pieces to this. On the cases so far, they've seen fundraising boosts, polling boosts. They don't look at this as a negative, politically speaking. It's forced the Republican Party to coalesce around Donald Trump. Everybody's using the language he wants them to use to talk about this, even the people who are running against him, with a few exceptions. But I think there's also an acknowledgement, including sources whom I know you've spoken to, that, you know, the degree of difficulty gets higher here as these cases get more serious. And this documents case is particularly difficult for all the reasons Mark just laid out. The January 6th case, particularly the one in Georgia, which does look, for all intents and purposes, like there's going to be an indictment in early August, is going to be a much harder thing to explain away and opens more political vulnerabilities for his opponents. But the question has always been, are those opponents going to take those vulnerabilities, or are they going to continue to make the same arguments that Donald Trump is making, which is that this is the DOJ out to get him? As long as other Republicans are using that same language, he can keep raising money off this and keep dancing with a plurality of Republican votes, potentially all the way through the primary calendar.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Mark, let me turn to you again. And as we talk about these other cases, as I just mentioned, one of them relates to January 6th. That, based on all of my reporting, based on my conversations with legal experts, is trickier to charge. Talk a little bit about that and what you're watching for there.
It is a much trickier case. Now, what is cleaner is that obviously it would be heard in the District of Columbia federal court. There's no venue concern as there was with the Trump classified document case. But it is incredibly unprecedented to bring these types of charges against a public official, essentially incitement. Now, in conspiracy to create such an incitement, as well as obstruct congressional proceedings, etc. I represent actually the estate of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. We're suing Donald Trump, to be very clear about it. And part of our claim is on the civil side, tying it to potential criminal charges. That doesn't mean the Justice Department will go the same way that we have gone in that argument. But it is at least there. Our civil burden is much lower than obviously the criminal burden that the government would have to prove. But if that case is brought against Donald Trump, you can expect that it was based on a significant and serious considered level of determination and decision making by the Justice Department that they think they have a case, right? This is not going to be one where they push the envelope in any shape or form. This isn't a test case. That's not what the Justice Department wants. So if they bring it, that means they can win it. And if I were Donald Trump, I'd be very concerned.
Okay, well, we will watch and wait and see what happens. Garrett Haake, Mark Zaid, thank you both so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.